So then, the United States Grand Prix. I'm not feeling 100%, so I'm going to try and do this in a single take. So if I do end up pausing for a couple of moments, I do apologise. But let's start off with some of the headline things from it. One of them is Max Verstappen has managed to close up that gap massively in the championship. He gained 23 points on Oscar Piastri over the course of the weekend. And although Lando Norris managed to work his way back up into the runners-up spot, he managed to gain 16 on Lando as well. So that has had a massive impact on the championship. Honestly, it was Verstappen's weekend. It was one of the things I said in the preview. I wouldn't be surprised that Red Bull managed to work out its issues around there. And it also turns out that Verstappen, is one of the greatest drivers in F1 history. And probably, almost without a shadow of a doubt, the greatest driver of this generation of cars. I'm liking the Max Verstappen that's having to work to be in the title battle. I really like that. I think we see a version of Max Verstappen that we haven't necessarily seen. Because 2021, I think that they had the best car. I think that Mercedes losing DAS and also the floor cutaways were enough that the developments from Red Bull and Honda, and also the regression from Mercedes, was enough to shape the championship and shape the championship picture so that Red Bull was the best car. And then obviously 22, they had some rotten luck at the start of the season, the double DNF in Bahrain. But I think that 22, they had the best car overall. And 23, undoubtedly. 24, for the start of it. And that's all he needed. He could just hold on. Lando wasn't all there. And I think that is the case with all of that. This year, they are very much not the best car. Verstappen's able to get it into some performances that very few other drivers would be able to. But now part of that is very few other drivers would have a Red Bull around them in the way that Max Verstappen does. Like, I don't think a Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes this year, if he hadn't gone Ferrari and the Mercedes was the Red Bull, would be able to make the most of it. Because there's also all the characteristics that go from the Honda powertrains. Look at him in Sainz, for instance, and how they struggled with the Ferrari and Mercedes engine swaps. The engine braking has had a massive impact in those cases. But I think that it's just showing that we've got a wonderful title battle in our hands right now. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it unfolds over the remaining few races. I have a feeling that for McLaren, that crash at the first corner sort of is just a double of what happened in Singapore. Now, in this case, both cars were out of the race. Singapore could have gone that way as well, had Lando not been able to recover from the mistake that he'd originally made, which led to him hitting Piastri. But in this case now, that has happened. I think what McLaren have to do is give them until Interlagos and then evaluate there. They are tracks, yes, that suit Lando better, but what you'll find is you'll find a quite clear picture after that, because you get another conventional weekend, granted at the highest altitude circuit in the calendar, and then you get another sprint weekend. From there you can go, okay, we've got 3 weekends left, a street circuit, a more kind of a circuit that suits the car, but it's a sprint weekend, and then Abu Dhabi. What do we do with all of this? Do we decide to go, okay, yes, we'll give them the full battle. We've already won the Constructors, so it doesn't change anything in terms of payout. In fact, it probably means that we have to pay slightly less if they both don't win the Drivers' Championship. But I don't think McLaren want that. I think they want their drivers to go out there and give it the best that they can and be happy with the results they get. And obviously a double DNF in the sprints was not that. Elsewhere though, Ferrari, I did say Ferrari could do okay. The resurfacing of COTA has helped them over the last couple of years, because beforehand it would have damaged the car. The car likes to ride low, but if the surface is too rough, you get too much plank wear and you end up with a situation like you did, well, actually 12 months ago, right? That was plank wear that got the Ferrari disqualification put in. Or I know Mercedes had that as well a couple of years ago for Hamilton, right? China, obviously, this year was when we saw a double DSQ for Ferrari. But yeah, I think Hamilton actually had more of the measure of Leclerc. I know the final result doesn't show it, but remember he did get a puncher in that final lap and was just about able to hold off Piastri. Those 2 points could be decisive in the championship, but to be honest, if it comes down to the 2 points that he lost to Hamilton with that puncher, you can usually point to something else like his off in Australia or turn 1 in the sprint at COTA to go, well, actually, these are the reasons why Piastri lost the championship. But yeah, it was an interesting weekend. You have some different plot lines to talk about. Alonso had been good and then had some struggles elsewhere. It was 2 different weekends for the Haas's in the 2 different races. I mean, less so for Ocon. Ocon got hit again. But yeah, it was eventful in some ways and uneventful in others. One of the people who's very unfortunate was Carlos Sainz, right? I mean, I say unfortunate. It was a mistake. It was, yeah, self-inflicted. But also, there was the moving around that, wasn't it, Tsunoda that he collided with had? Tsunoda, who very quietly ended up in 7th place. He ended up beating Antonelli, who wasn't in the points at the end of the race. He was down in 13th. He's doing what Red Bull sort of needed him to do the whole season now. At least next up is Mexico City, where the altitude has historically favoured the Honda power unit. We'll have to see what happens with that. Thanks for watching and joining, folks. And until next time, as always, it's bye-bye for now.